Despite being the largest joint stock company in the world in its heyday, the London and North Western Railway is woefully underrepresented in the ready-to-run market. In terms of engines, the truest examples available are the Bachmann Webb coal tank and improved President, unless you want to count the Bachmann LNWR Black ROD locomotives, and to a lesser extent the Bachmann G2As that aren't available in an LNWR guise. Coaches and wagons are thin on the ground as well, only really coming out in the last few years or so. Hatton's Genesis LNWR coaches, in both their 4-wheel and 6-wheel forms, and also the recently announced Rapido Evolution bogie coaches are just generic toolings, with the Hatton's coaches now really hard to come by. Hornby's generic 4 and 6-wheel coaches do come in an LNWR livery and are the easiest to come across at present. Freight wagons are limited to a few private owner wagons released scattershot across major manufacturers and limited edition runs. And with the exception of the Dapol gunpowder wagon, they are almost always open or salt wagons. There is not the same love and range available as for other pre-grouping companies. But now, finally, an LNWR box wagon has entered the ready-to-run market. It's this, the Rapido LNWR D88 wagon. Released in a variety of liveries, I opted for the Locomotion Models exclusive variant, number 21408, which is in the National Collection and I've seen in person at the National Railway Museum in York. This exclusive release did cost me the full recommended retail price of £32.95, which strikes me as really expensive for a van, even in a post-Liz Truss economy. I'm expecting a night and day difference in quality compared to the £11 Dapol box wagons I looked at recently, so let's see if this is the case. Inside the box, Rapido provide this very nice information sheet on the real life wagon, though it wouldn't stay flat for the camera. Then there's the wagon itself. On the whole, the livery is a simple grey with white decals, but everything is applied with precision and crispness. The decals are straight and legible and there's no marks to the paint. Compared to the Dapol wagons we looked at in a recent video, these have a much cleaner line between the edge of the decals and the paint on the wagon. One query I do have on the aesthetics though is the gap around the doors. This looks like a separate piece, as the tooling Rapido have put together does cover different door styles, so it's a shame this doesn't quite fit flusher with the main wagon body as the difference is quite noticeable. At first I thought it might open, but that doesn't appear to be the case. There is a wealth of brake rigging detail on the chassis, and detail is something the wagon isn't short of overall. It's peppered with fine planking and riveting all over the tooling, a personal highlight of which being the diagonal planks on the ends. Everything is moulded, with the exception of some of the brake rig detailing. This was where my only main quality issue cropped up. One of the separately fitted pieces was bent outwards on one side and I couldn't get it bent straight again. Underneath there are 2 NEM pockets complete with couplings and a wealth of underframe and plankwork detailing. The wheels are fitted into bearings, something I've not had on a wagon before, so I'll see how it compares with other wagons. As nice as this all is, it clearly took a lot of time and expense adding all this frame detailing I'm hardly ever going to see. The only time I'll see this on my layout is if there is a Thomas-esque accident and the wagon goes downside up, which with vans as expensive as this is not something on my to-do list. On the scales, the LNWR van comes in at 37 grams, which is only 5 to 6 grams heavier than the Dapol vans I looked at, though some of this weight difference can be accounted for by the addition of wheel bearings on the LNWR wagon. The back-to-back gauging comes in at 14.7mm for both axles, which is a bit above the standard but supposedly right for fine-scale track work. Hopefully there's no detriment to the wagon's performance on my Code 100 track. Overall, this is a great looking piece of LNWR rolling stock, but perhaps underneath it's a little too over-engineered, bumping up the price somewhat unnecessarily in my opinion. If it runs beautifully, that may all be forgiven. On straight and level track, this wagon rolls so freely you'd think the axles were actually oiled as well. The bearings keep the axles as free as possible, reducing any drag on the wagon and any locomotives pulling it. With the wagon lined up in a train, let's test the couplings. On first try, only the front coupling has latched and held. Let's try the rear one again and give it a bit more oomph. It's not hooked. On closer inspection, the Bachmann's Salt van does hook up fine. It appears there's a bit of stiffness in the Rapido van's coupling hook, so it doesn't collapse back down and couple up. Now I've lowered it, they seem to couple up and hold each other. Third time lucky, the train's staying together now. On the points test, you can see it's the Bachmann G88 at the head of the train. The Rapido van handles the Pico streamline points like a champ. Likewise, the van has no issues with the baseboard joints at the front of the layout. I'm intrigued to see if my curved baseboard joints cause the bearing brace wheels any problems, so let's send the train around the loop. There's a little bit more of an obvious jolt compared to the bearingless Bachmann and Dapol wagons, so perhaps these Rapido wagons are a tad more sensitive than others. Still, it hasn't derailed, which is the main thing. It's completed the loop without any performance issues. The wagon certainly looks the part among others in a train, but it's not screaming premium to me. I suppose on the one hand it's good that it blends in, otherwise you need to spend the GDP of Switzerland to get enough wagons to make a train of consistent quality and appearance. But on the flip side, it doesn't look significantly different from cheaper offerings. In all areas it's slightly better than other manufacturers, but whether that amounts to costing 3 times as much as a Dapol offering, I don't know. On to my final verdict. For decoration, the grey paint and white lettering is basic but done faultlessly. The finish is fantastic, crisp all round, and there's no defects that I noticed. This gets the decoration star. For details and features, the moulded detailing is very strong, intricate and well applied. There's dozens of finely applied rivets and planking details, and Rapido have done a top job of getting this to work seamlessly in 00 gauge. Features include bearings and separately fitted brake rigging, but nothing else really mind-blowing for the price. More on that later. On the whole, it does what it does very well, and certainly doesn't have any areas lacking detail. I'll give it the point. Quality. On the whole, the quality is good. The decoration, tooling and construction are all on point. The bearings are also a quality feature, though I'm not 100% convinced on their relevance yet. The only notable issues are the wonky pieces of brake rigging and the stiff coupling hooks, though I'd prefer hooks too stiff to hooks that just fall off and get lost. It's sad that this impedes their functionality a little bit, but on the whole these are relatively forgivable offences. The van gets the quality point. Performance. I was apprehensive about this, given it's my first foray into wagons with bearings. While they do have some track laying quality sensitivities, besides the sticky coupling hook, the wagon performed fine round the loop at a sensible speed. Points, board joins, nothing seemed to phase it to derailment. Another mark in this wagon's favour. And finally, on to price. While everything so far has been smooth sailing, this is the criterion that irks me the most. The wagon does a good job of looking and running as a wagon should. but so do many others for a third of the full £32.95 I paid. That was, however, full RRP from Locomotion models, and you can actually get these cheaper at other retailers for £27.95. But does an extra £10 to £20 really justify a slightly better livery, slightly better tooling, the fitting of bearings and finer chassis detail? At the end of the day, it runs just as well as a normal wagon. I like the prototype, but would have preferred something more affordable, as this to me is over-engineered in the name of quality and features. An LNWR D88 body on a standard chassis with no bearings or hidden undercarriage detail would have suited me fine, and made this wagon much cheaper to produce and sell. Maybe I'm in the minority here, or being particularly harsh. I kind of see what I paid for, but also see what I would have been happy without in order for something more economical that does the same job. I'll be stingy and deduct the price point here. I like Rapido's outputs and ambitions, but it's not always what's best for my wallet. They've yet to win me over with the cost of their wagons. We'll have to see if they do that with their new locos and coaches when those come round. On the whole, that's a score of 4 out of 5, making this a wagon I can highly recommend. If you're looking for premium quality pre-grouping rolling stock, with every rivet and undercarriage detail thrown in, this could be for you, as long as you don't mind the £27 plus price tag. 3 of these would set you back almost £100. I'm happy I got one, and an example I've seen in real life, but that's as far as I'm willing to push my financial responsibility. What do you think of the Rapido LNWR D88 van? Is it exactly what the doctor ordered, or a bit on the rich side in terms of asking price? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Take care.